Hello everyone. Steve Sawyer here from New Vision Wilderness, coming at you with miraculous stories of healing out here in the juniper trees out east of Bend, Oregon. So thanks for joining me. Decided not to remake the situation I dealt with last month with being up in the mountains and losing signal and trying to broadcast on 3 different occasions. So decided to stick with down in the lower flats here where we have good predictive signal, etc., and go from there. So thanks again for joining us. And I'm the Chief Clinical Consultant for New Vision Wilderness, so I'm one of the co-founders of New Vision Wilderness Therapy. We have wilderness therapy programs based in 3 different locations across the country, and we use brain spotting inside of our programs and a lot of other powerful healing modalities and techniques. So yet again, I have wind this month, so you're going to be moving around a little bit, but hopefully my new tripod will do a pretty good job with it. The joys of trying to broadcast from the wilderness, that's how it is for us as wilderness therapists. So this month, wanted to talk a little bit about the unique approach of dialing in on each one of our individual unique attributes in our development and our neural physiology or our neurology, and how brain spotting works with that and how various brain spotting techniques help. Just to give an overview, so I know that there are many brain spotting therapists that follow this feed, but also many others, and just to talk a little bit about the physiology of healing our advanced nervous systems and how that works. I also have a specific kind of case example. I'm actually going to go back and rewind back to one I used probably over 10 episodes ago to kind of pull in on some key points of what I'm talking about today. And so, one of the interesting parts of traumatization that is often not accounted for in traditional talk therapy involves proxemics. And proxemics meaning the proxemics of the threat and its proximity to me. And one of the things I like to talk about in that is that there's kind of 2 variations of proxemics, and when it comes to trauma that come into play. It could be somebody's leaving me, so it's going further away from me, or it's coming towards me and threatening my physical being. And so both can be a traumatic experience of somebody leaving me that I didn't expect to leave me. That could be a grief and loss situation where somebody passes away. That could be a caregiver leaving us. It could be a partner or a lover leaving us and in an unexpected way, which can really surprise us and leave us feeling very alone. I talk about that a lot on here. Aloneness as one of the kind of the key factors in traumatization and people's traumatic experience. Is this feeling of being alone. When somebody attacks us or somebody violates our own personal safety, comes into our home or steals from us, it's jarring to us because this experience involves our environment that we're usually pretty in control of and familiar with. So the powerlessness in traumatization often is accompanied with this proxemics invasion. You've come into my space, you've attacked me, or you've come into something that I've built that I'm familiar with, and now there's something unfamiliar happening. So if you steal something from me, I feel violated in that way. The aloneness that comes in that kind of traumatization is a little bit different because it's like this is mine and it's my space, and somebody comes in and violates that for me, and so that aloneness is driven by kind of feeling as though nobody's there to help me, and so therefore I'm handling this alone. So the traumatization of somebody leaving and going away from us leaves us feeling alone. Somebody coming and attacking us helps us feel alone because we couldn't get help at that moment. Aloneness being the theme there, but actually driven by 2 different things. And I always talk about me and Gabor Mate's panels we did across the country where we talked a lot about aloneness and really that when we're healing trauma, that's the number one thing we're after is healing aloneness. And part of what oftentimes makes people feel alone is that we, as professionals intervening with these these situations as just kind of, talking to somebody a lot and making interpretations for their world. And maybe they're just a little bit off key for what they're telling us, or you feel like they don't really get the severity of what we're talking about or what we experienced, or maybe something that you said to me doesn't fully align with what I actually experienced or feel about the situation. And so therapists can create situations where their clients feel alone. It's very easy to do that when we're kind of ego-driven, or we're supposed to be the professional in the situation or the expert. And that's one of the beauties of what happens inside of brain spotting, is we really untrained therapists away from that space and try to train them towards being able to really connect from a neutral place of presence. And the number one thing we emphasize in brain spotting is what we call the dual attunement window, this connection of me being in the space with you and how we utilize that very effectively. It's a huge part of brain spotting training. So when we start to talk about these versions of proxemics in trauma, one thing that's really important in brain spotting is for us to be able to adjust our physical space. So for example, to give you a little bit of a sense of how that works even as a therapist, is we train our clinicians to say, hey, how is this feeling for you right now? The proximity that we're sitting in right now, is this too close or too far away? Literally in brain spotting, people will, sometimes have the therapist sit very far away from them. Maybe, I'm feeling kind of threatening to them, and so they can control that space. That's part of us attuning into their neurological world and its need for healing. So just by how close we sit to somebody affects drastically how that window kind of opens with this trauma work that we might be doing, and can create a sense of either safety or unsafe based upon these proxemics. Some people that we work with that have attachment history want us to sit very close. They feel safe with us. They voice that, and they want us to be super close. So we're literally almost knee to knee inside of that session. And this is part of dialing in on a person's healing experience that is so individualized. And that's one of the things I wanted to emphasize inside of this conversation this week or this month, is the individualized needs of healing are so often jeopardized by the structure of which therapists, cling to, or a structure that's associated with, the therapeutic modality that is presented to a person, and that rigidness doesn't allow the person who's trying to get the healing to feel fully enveloped in an experience with safety. One of the interesting conversations we've been having a lot lately in the training world of brain spotting is, the power of actual Zoom-based therapeutic process. A lot of brain spotters, including myself, have been having some amazing results doing this work via Zoom and virtual platforms. Why is that? This goes back to those proxemics discussions I started with, which is that when I'm actually sitting in my home and inside of a room that I feel safe to do therapeutic experience on with Zoom, I actually am completely in control of that environment. Whether I have an alarm on my house, whether I have a specific thing in my room that's a spiritual meaning to me, all of these things allow a person to set the stage for healing in that platform. So I do really want to mention here that the Zoom platform or virtual platform of psychotherapy is actually works amazingly in this work. So if people are thinking about doing that work or whatnot, we've seen amazing results with those platforms. If you're looking, into getting individual therapy and intervention, and so. I just encourage you not to feel like that healing can't happen because of this kind of current situation we're in, the new norm, and having to use a lot of virtual psychotherapy to help people heal or support them. So brain spotting specifically works fantastic in that platform, and there's a lot we can do within that. And all of our techniques that we teach in brain spotting work really well on Zoom. And I just did a training this last weekend along with Jeff Bryan, who may or may not be watching. We trained 28 clinicians in brain spotting phase 2, and the sessions we had in that training were absolutely miraculous, and it was all done via Zoom. So proxemics is a big part of therapeutic process, and one part of brain spotting that we teach around this is the use of the pointer. We have a pointer that we use to create a sense of direction in a therapeutic process. There's a lot of neurological reasons we use that, and I'm going to spare you guys of that, at least on this talk. Talked about it in previous talks. Some of my first recordings actually had a lot of that in it. But when we actually face a threat, there's an element that in brain spotting we utilize neurologically by using this pointer to look right at it. And there's some techniques we can use actually where we bring that pointer closer or further away to work with the best healing equation with this proxemics. We actually utilize that out of the brain spotting phase 2 training. And then sometimes people have to not have that. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about here today was a case that I worked with at New Vision a couple years ago of a student that we had here, an adolescent girl who had a lot of intervention, a lot of brain spotting specifically, and it just was not working. And one of the beautiful things in brain spotting that we really adhere to is the ability to pivot or change inside of the session at any given moment based upon what the client is letting us know they need. And it's based upon what they need, not what the therapist thinks they need. I love that part of what is a key part of the philosophy inside of brain spotting. But this young lady had some proxemics injuries, some very significant ones, and one of the mistakes in interviewing her about her experience with brain spotting previously, she had been with some amazing clinicians, so it was never a clinician-specific variable. It was a technique variable that I surfaced in this conversation, and it was literally me pulling out my brain spotting pointer and just sitting it there that clued us in very rapidly that this was not something that she was willing to take a direct look at. So when we look in brain spotting and we use a pointer, we look at the pointer and we find an eye position that gives us the strongest access to the neurological response behind the issue we're working on. And this young lady was, as soon as I even brought it out, was like, I don't do pointers and I don't look at pointers. And this is one of those moments as a brain spotter with a lot of experience that we learn to pivot, like, oh, okay, well, talk to me about that. Like, help me understand what's happening for you in that. This is how the principles that brain spotting is built upon, of pivoting to what the person needs or wants for their healing equation. And she did not want the pointer involved. And the beautiful thing about brain spotting is she's in charge of that. She's in charge of saying, I don't want that pointer to be a part of my healing process. Okay, so we're not going to do that. But we do need to work on this issue. So we continue talking about this this issue of being harmed by somebody in her life, very directly physically. And there's a technique in brain spotting we call gaze spotting. We don't have to use the pointer. And this is one of the things I love about David Grand's work, is he has built an entire system of being able to shift and pivot in a million different directions to be able to create what the client feels is their best healing opportunity. And very quickly, when we eliminated the pointer, this girl was able to step directly into, on her own accords, facing and looking at her issue. And she did find an eye position, and there's a technique we call gaze spotting where we don't use the pointer. Works really well in Zoom, by the way, as I mentioned some of the technique and ability to do this work in Zoom later. And she found her own eye position that she felt comfortable with to work on this sexual assault. And inside of that work, she was able to self-direct the process of, I'm going to look at it and I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to look at it and I'm not going to look at it. For the most part, she actually looked directly straight at it for the most of the time, but she was in control of it, which makes complete sense considering the fact that her proxemics had been jeopardized early in her life, and her ability to stare right at the problem or the threat was a big issue and block for her in therapy and scary for her. And so by me pivoting to that, she was able to gaze at this threat and control how much and how long she looked at it. And this ties into that powerlessness part of proxemics that I'm talking about earlier, which is when somebody physically threatens us, a big part of the experience is I feel helpless. Nobody's there helping or stopping it. this allowed her to step into that process in a very empowered way and to look directly at this scary, threatening situation she had went through, and for her to control how long she was looking at it. In the middle of this session, I call this the ectomy session because in our Lakota language, the spider is a powerful healing symbol. And in the middle of our brain spotting session, as she's gazing, this giant spider lowers its way down out of the tree. So now a lot of you are getting activated and frightened by this and want to actually tune off because I even said the word spider. So let me challenge your perspective a little bit. The spider comes down in the middle of our session and is just kind of hanging and spinning around in the middle of our session there. And she's gazing at a spot. She doesn't know it's there. And then at one point when her work was finished, this girl actually had a big fascination. She had a big infatuation with spiders and in the field directly. She was always studying them and things like that. And this huge cat spider, they're beautiful colors and everything, comes down in the middle of our session. This is at night, by the way. We both have headlamps on, and our therapist had headlamps on. And this spider lowers down and starts spinning around in our session. And the session completes, and she looks up, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, look at this spider!" And we had this big conversation about this spider in the middle of our session after she just resolved this enormous trauma. She felt incredible release by us utilizing this technique of not forcing her to look at something. She says, "Oh my gosh, I feel," and she went to we call a squeeze lemon zero, complete relief from the experience of a sexual assault. And then we had our little friend, the spider, come in and join us inside of the session, and we got to end this conversation of incredible healing with this nature connection. And people oftentimes ask, in our trainings, like, what is it like with the nature part of brain spotting out in the wilderness? And this is an example of this healing symbol coming down and the transformation. And for her, her catching her dream of being able to have release, and a spider being a web and being able to catch things, she was able to capture relief. And so that's our story for this month. And it was healed by spiders. Contrary to some of you despising them, being afraid of them, they can also be an incredible symbol of healing and capturing what we want in our lives. And this young lady not only healed by brain spotting, the wilderness, but also the spider. So thanks for joining us. I hope that's helpful. We can pivot and utilize a lot of different techniques to work with proxemics inside of brain spotting's work. And it's a very powerful equation that we can implement in brain spotting as you become an advanced brain spotting therapist. And for those of you that are seeking healing, bringing in this proxemics of something leaving us or coming at us is a very powerful part of healing attachment issues. It's powerful for being able to heal any of these kind of assault experiences that somebody might experience. Grief and loss is a huge part of somebody leaving us behind and us feeling like we can't quite grab somebody that's out there and they're away from us now and grab that relational meaning connection. And redefining all of that is possible inside of our brain spotting work. So thanks for joining us for this month. Appreciate everybody's engagement and involvement and comments. And please put comments in there. If there's something you would like me to talk about brain spotting or trauma or healing, anytime, please comment in the section, and we watch this closely, and I can always tailor my next talk. I love doing that and coming up with the stuff on the spot. If you have something you would like us to talk about inside of our Miraculous Fridays. So Miraculous Stories of Healing for this month, healed by a spider. And, until next time, please calibrate us on where we want to go next in our conversations ahead. Have a good month, everybody.